Hey everybody, this is Paul with Paul Nelson Insurance, and going to talk a little bit today about getting into accidents with animals and whether or not they're considered at fault and if they're going to impact your insurance rates or not. So the short answer to the question is they're not considered at fault accidents, but there's an asterisk to it, which we'll go over in just a second. So your insurance company knows that there's not a lot you can do. If a deer jumps out from the side of the road and you run into it, that's clearly not something that was your fault. You didn't do anything necessarily wrong to impact that and get into that accident. Now, that asterisk, where can it be possibly considered at fault for you? So if you do any sort of a correction that causes you to run into something, so if you swerve to avoid a deer and you run into a ditch, or you run into a tree, you run into another car, then that's when it's going to be considered at fault. So if you do something to correct and run into something else other than that animal, they consider that you've taken more of an active role in having that accident, even if it's a deer that jumps out and startles you and causes you to do that. As heartless as it sounds, it's going to be better off for you to run into the little Bambi and hit it rather than trying to swerve and potentially have another accident. So again, to recap, if you hit an animal and nothing else happens, even if there's damage to your car, it's not going to be considered at fault. The only time it's going to be at fault is if you swerve away and hit something else. So hopefully this answers any questions out there. Thanks.